Right, so we're going to hang a door. You got existing frame. This is about 10 years old, so it shouldn't be that bad, but it is a new build, so you never know. New door. So with these doors, these are solid, not solid. They're quite hollow inside. So on the top here, it'll tell you where your lock is. So, and it will say nothing on the other side for the hinge side. That's the lock side. This is the side we need. So I always put an L on it, because you can easily spin these around and forget about it. And then an H on the hinge side like that. So the first thing you got to do really is just offer it in place to see how it fits. Yeah, as you can see, look, it doesn't go in straight away. So we're looking too tall by about 5mm. So you could either rail saw the bottom off or cut the bottom off with a planer, you know, anything like, you know, plane it down, anything like that. So I'll take it off the bottom though, because you really want to try and leave that, then drop it into place. Then you can adjust the height of this if it needs any off one end down or one end down. You can take that straight off once it's in place, and then it gives you the gap underneath, because you're supposed to have a 10mm gap. So let's get that done. Whack a line down, we'll take 5mm off. That's a good start. Hoover's full. You never want to plane, you know, like that way. You never want to come off the end, because it'll throw all that wood out, so you have to do half, spin it over. It's easy to get the track saw out, but it's only one door. Right, let's give it a try. And this is where you need to write, you're locking your hinge side on, because now it's gone. I could have easily put that back in the incorrect way. Right, we fit. So what we're looking for now is just your gaps. Let's bring this a bit closer. See if you can see that. So we're trying to look. See that gap's a bit bigger on the right. Bit smaller there. Look down the hinge side, and we're tight at the top. Then all the way down. Same again there, tight at the top. And a similar gap all the way down then. So we'll probably take, because you've got a big gap there, small gap there, if you take this off to about here, it will lean the door this way and tighten that up. So we'll take that first, just off there. when you're planing off the side, some people will go like 1/2 mil. You know, take 1/2 mil off to the way you want it to finish, then take another 1/2 mil, and then 1/2 mil to about there. I prefer to go like 1.5 millimeters, but then turn, as I'm planing, turn the dial on the planer to lose it to 0. So that's a lot better now. When you look at, push that tight, look. I've got a decent gap all the way down, and the top is almost bang on. And then with that pushed over, we've got the gap. Probably want a bit off the bottom. See the bottom part? Take a bit off that. So what we'll do for now, put the camera back. Right, hold it in place. So we want a bit off the bottom to about the middle. If you can lift the door up, if not use, I've got one of those air wedges. Alright, so yeah, one of these. Literally just drop that under your door. You can stand on it, pump it up. Yeah, so as you can see, that top line there is bang on. That'll do. We're nice and tight down there. A little bit off there, the frame's a bit out, there's a bit of a gap there, but there's not a lot you can do about that. So I'll take 1/2 mil off, maybe 1 millimeter off the note here, and then probably mark it up, see what it says, get the hinges on it, and then if there's anything that wants to come off this side, take it straight off there. It's the only hard bit with doors, is doing this without smashing the place up. Scoot that out of the way. Right, we're back in. So that gap is almost the same now down there. Oh yeah, time that's tucked in. I reckon that might want a bit off, but I think we should try hinging it first, because sometimes with these ball bearing hinges, especially in an old frame, it's a bit of a clean up, doesn't it? Especially with an old frame, they've got a certain amount of throw on them. So you need to sort of mimic what that's going to happen, but an old frame, you don't know if it's been chopped in really far or not, so you might have to pack that to just try and get this side to work. So what we'll do to mark it, get that I've kicked in the other room. And you're going to need, you want the same margin all the way around, 2 mil. I always use my van keys. I've got a key that's a nice thickness, so plonk that in the middle. Get what fall on the old pumper, and then you want to mark your tops and put an X where you want to clear it. Always make sure this is pumped in case it's going flat. Sometimes it can go flat and drop the door. Then you've got gaps in your hinges then. Take that out. So now we're looking at hinges. Let's move you down here. Sharp pencil. You don't want massive lines. So you've got your sharp pencil, you've got your hinge. When you look at the hinge, it's hard to see on camera, let me have a look behind so we can see. See that side, there's a gap there, gap, gap. Spin that round, you've got no gap, then a gap there. So this side is the frame side of the hinge, and then that side is the door side. So you drop this on, and you see that bottom hinge? Yeah, that's it. So you drop that on onto your pencil line, just put it in full depth for now, let's draw your top line. You want to cover by pushing the hinge up the pencil line, and mark through there. And then this is where you need to get the lines right. So you want to pull the hinge back so that gap, you can see that gap, and then mark down the back. And then I always colour that in, so you can't go wrong. So you've done that 3 times. So you've got a couple of options here. You can either chop these out the old-fashioned way. Just put that there, which is basically just a hammer and chisel. Or you can freehand with a router and then chop the rest. Or you can use something like this, which is a jig that you can put on the door, and that's the size of your hinges, and then route that. But I'm going to do it the old-fashioned way. I say the old-fashioned way. The old-fashioned way with a modern twist. So get your router in, and get your depth set, and get your depth set with one of these. So you want to try and match them at the top of each other, so you've got the same depth as the hinge. Set that, lock it off. Put your depth stop in, tighten that. Right. That's it. I'll move you around here so you can get a better view of this M1. So you're just following as close as you dare to that line, and then I'll chop it out after. It stops the chisel from being pushed over that way with the wood. done that. I should have brought me, I've got a holder that holds the door in place. I should have got that out. It's a typical thing, you know, you're only doing one door. You just try and do the minimum. So yeah, nice big sharp chisel. You just want to be just on the lines. Some people go around with a Stanley knife, which is absolutely fine, but I always find the knuckle of the hinge gets in the way of the knife, so you're not really, you know, it's only a few knots. It's nice and clean. Grab your hinge, check the fit. That's spine what that is because it's holding itself in. Nice fit that. And then when it comes to drilling these in, I'll get you a pilot hole. After all that was in my pocket. So these, you'll see, you'll slide back. So yeah, I've got those. Not too mad with the old impact. Some people use a screwdriver, but I've used an impact for years, so I know what I'm doing with these. Right. See, that's lovely, that. Perfect fit. So what I'll do now I know that that's a good fit, I'll do the rest, and I'm just going to get the sander and just take the edges off and any planing marks that have got in it. Clean down there, you know, so you've got just a slight bevel on the side. You can use a planer, you know, a hand plane. Just take the arris off it and that, but I always find get the sander out and then you can tidy up all these. You don't get many marks in it, because obviously you use a festival planer, so it's a good planer, but you do get the odd one. So let's go and get the, I'll go and fetch the sander out of the van. So, do that without smashing the door up. Might need a bit more off the bottom, but we'll do it tight for now. We'll see what it says. So they're a snug fit in them originals. Yeah, a tad. See how it's springing out? What that indicates that it's too tight here. The door, you are supposed to put a leading edge in. There's a slight, as I planed it, there's a slight edge on it, but that's a bit old school. Nobody really bothers nowadays. You just get them in. So you can see where it's tight. And also you can see if it pulls the hinge over, see the top's fine, you can work out which it is. It's probably this middle, that middle one there. It's obviously deeper set back, this is, than what they are. So, but to be fair, the bottom one feels the deepest. So what you can do to see is undo the 2 screws out the middle hinge and then see what it does, because now you've not got that binding, it's not pulling on it. Yeah, see, that's less. So what I think I'll do is pack out the bottom hinge and that one out just ever so slightly, and we shall do that with some packers. So you want some tin snips, and then where are my packers gone? Got these black ones, these might be a bit thick, I might have to go and get some green ones. Or you could use a bit of cardboard, but I find cardboard a bit soft. So, is that what I feel? Yeah. And then you can try that in there like that. A little bit more off. Yeah, that'll work nicely. So, let's have a look. Can you see? You actually see what I'm doing? Just about. So let's put you down here. Put you there. Gets a little bit fiddly sometimes when it's like this, but push the door forward. You see you've got these little burrs, because this is an MDF frame, you get these, so we'll scrape them off. Not a big fan of MDF frames, to be fair, they're rubbish. Put that into place and then trap it into place, that's it, like that. Ideally pilot hole them, but I've run out of hands. See, that's pushed it out, that's the original holes. So you want to try and keep it where it was. So it's a little bit off before, so we'll do it like this. Right, so now that's flush, so it's fitting a bit better. And then, let's see what the door says now. Yeah, so it's hardly any hinge band, that's just the wind pushing it out. So the gap's a lot better. Obviously it's tight there, got a bigger gap there to nothing. There's not really anything you can do about that, because as you see, remember I've only planed from about there to there, so I've took that over to get that top in, because it levelled the top out. So that's really a deflection in the frame. That's the only downside to when you're doing these new doors in old frames. That's something you have to put up with, unless you wanted to take this architrave off and wedge that frame over here. But in this case, it's not really worth it. It's ended up causing too much damage. So I'll do the hinge side, that middle hinge, put a packer on that, onto the lock then. So now we're looking at the latch. So this is the latch here. You get 2 sizes. We actually get 3, but we won't go into that. 2.5 inch and you get a 3 inch where that's 1/2 inch over. I prefer the 2.5 inch. Some people prefer the 3 inch just because it gives the handle, you imagine, let me get the correct one, it'll put it about there. Some people prefer it further back. I'd use a 3 inch if you've got a doorknob because you need to get your hand behind it to turn it, but these are fine. So, and because we're in an existing frame, so you've got the latch here, we want to be aiming for bang on in the centre of that, which is there. That's the middle. And then we know that we can get into that original latch that's there. Some people change the latches, but these are actually fine. So we'll change that, and then I've got a little device here. Got this 3D printed. Ignore it being screwed together, that was for something else. So you got your line there, that's your centre, and then you want to do a pencil line up and down here. That gives you your middle. So we're going to drill a 25mm hole right there. So you're going to get it drilled. I've got a bit of tape on there that tells me the depth, so you know that you're not going to go too far, especially if you're into where this glass is. A little trick to tell you whether you're too far down or too far up is just get it touching the door, and you want to make sure that you see, I want to go up a bit. That's it. This spade bit's quite blunt. That's it. Cover your shoe in sawdust. There we go. So when it comes to marking your latches out, you obviously want to keep it as square as possible. So I'll draw around that. Take that out and we'll put 2 little pilot holes in that. You can draw around it if you wanted to, around the whole latch. But I think marking it with a knife will do you a better job. Clean, nice sharp clean line. Nobody likes seeing gaps around it. There's your 2 screws. That's one. So you can see that's nice and straight. So you need a nice sharp blade. This one ain't too bad. So straight down the edge to there. Straight down that edge. I always do the bottoms and the tops in 2 halves, you know, go that way and then that way. So that's what we're going to take out. 2 ways of doing this. You can either route it, or go through the hammer and chisel, but I think just for what it's worth, we'll just hammer and chisel it out. You could also use this to put under the door, bump it up and stop it moving. Do your top, do your bottom, keep them as straight as you can. Down the side with the knife, always nice lot. And it's a bit of a guess, this one is guess your depth. Get one of them. A little bit of wood sticking out there. That's annoying. But that's how it happens. Sometimes it does, sometimes it don't. There we go. So once that's screwed in, so before you screw it in, you want to hold it on the side, hold it level, mark your door handle hole, get that drilled out. I'd use a 20mm spade bit for that. Just don't go man bashing it straight through the side of the door, just side at a time. That's one side. So yeah, take time on this bit. There we go. We are through. GoPro is almost flat, so screw that in there, screw your handle on, that's it. So if you've got enough battery life, yeah, we're close, but when it comes to putting the handle on, I just thought I'd just quickly tell you this is, you know, you've got your first one on, that's in place. Get your two screws, so I always go opposite corners. I'd go top corner, top right corner, bottom left hand corner. Have a feel for the handle up and down to make sure it's going to sit straight. You can plot it on if you want, but I prefer the grip. I think sometimes they're only thin screws. Right, so they're the two ones on. So you can try that out, you can check it for level, and if it's slightly out of level, just a gentle tap like that. And then you can also try the door. Yeah, we've got that latch bang on locked. So there we go, that's it. Put the rest of the screws in. Finished. Thanks a lot. So yeah, we're all finished now. I'm just going to sand these edges off, tidy it up, get rid of the pencil marks. A bit annoying about this gap here, but it's not really worth, I don't think, taking this arc tube off. So, you know, the gaps are good, that gaps are good, floor's good, handle's on, no slapping it either, it works a treat. So, a successful door. So thanks for tuning in. I shall hopefully upload a few more videos, so catch you on the next one. Goodbye.